Put your hands up. When I tell you to do something, you do it. I am.
I thought I was going to get shot in front of my kids, like he actually told me, and with profanity.
Phoenix police are at the center of a national storm. That shocking video showing officers threatening to shoot members of an African-American family, a man and his pregnant fiance, who were with their 1- and 4-year-old daughters. We later learned what prompted that horrifying confrontation. The 4-year-old girl stole a doll from a dollar store. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Square Off. I'm Bram Resnick. Phoenix leaders are now dealing with the fallout. National figures like rapper Jay-Z are getting involved with money and lawyers, and more could join in. The story going viral. We are very pleased to have Phoenix Police Chief Jeri Williams with us this morning to talk about all that. Welcome to Square Off.
Thank you. Thanks.
First, my usual full disclosure, as many of our viewers know already, my wife is a City of Phoenix employee. She is not in a public safety job. I also want to add, I know this is a very tough conversation. There are 3,000 officers put their lives on the line every day, and we want to acknowledge that. At the same time, the outrage, the anger, the distrust of many Phoenix residents is real, black, brown, and white.
Agreed. So let's just start with this. What we saw in that video isn't in keeping with good policing. It's unacceptable. I apologize to the family for the interaction. To be honest with you, I'm apologizing to the community too, because that is not what should have happened in that circumstance. However, there's more to the story. Our officers are contacted in one of our local stores because of shoplifting.
Okay, so now you're going into the police narrative of what happened.
No, I'm not going into narrative. I'm going into what the facts are.
Okay.
And I think what's missing sometimes are the facts. So our officers are alerted by a manager in a store that there are adults stealing from the store. As the adults know and realize that police are coming, they break away and they get into a vehicle and they flee. They stop initially to let a woman out of the car who is ultimately arrested for warrants. The car flees again and we ultimately find the car. Now, from there, I totally get it. We shouldn't have reacted the way that we reacted. Step
back. You say the car flees. What the woman said was that a patrol car was following them.
That is not what's in the police report. That is not the facts that we know them to be.
Well, it's unclear from the police report. And let's just talk about the police report for a minute. Do you believe that police report accurately portrays what happened?
I believe when the employee wrote it, that is the component of what our internal investigation needs to flesh out.
The fact that in the police report, the officer describes the woman as being abusive and yelling a few times does not describe his own behavior.
Agreed.
In that situation, which you would not have known about had it not been for the citizen video.
And that is true and that is accurate, and the behavior is unacceptable. At the end of the day, though, everyone is entitled to due process. So the investigation is going to flesh that information out. The investigation is going to determine and show that. And I understand how critical and how important this is. This is one of our top priorities. We've moved people off assignments to deal with this and manage this. Again, at the end of the day, I apologize.
But here we are, you know, but for the grace of God, we'd be talking about a dead African-American pregnant woman who had been shot by a cop.
But that didn't happen.
It didn't happen, but how do you explain the fact that it came this close to happening when we all see an officer who appears to be out of control?
So we respond to that by knowing that when an employee makes a decision and does what he or she does in this video, it is not in keeping with the other 2,900, 3,000 officers that I have. It is imperative for folks to know that once I became aware of, and you alluded to it, once I became aware of the video, I took immediate steps and actions and took those employees off of patrol. They're not sitting in a patrol car having contact with people. They're sitting behind a desk where they can't forward face and engage with the public.
You said in a Facebook post 2 years ago, for those of you who have made public comments and contacted me personally about the video, I get it. Your concerns are also my concerns. You and I have talked about this in the past. I'm curious about how you, as an African-American cop, as a lifelong resident of this community, What are you feeling right now when you see this, understanding how the people you live with and grew up with also see this?
So I am with everyone in the community who's angry, who's outraged. I have officers out there who are angered and outraged to see that this is what brush we are being painted with, when I know, Ram, that we're better than that. I know this department is better than that. I know our community is better than that. But at the end of the day, I have to take responsibility and be accountable. So our next steps is we're running the investigation. Our next steps, we need to look at policy. Our next steps, we need to roll out some more training.
We'll talk about training in our next segment, but there's a larger context here.
Okay.
Fatal police shootings before you took this job. Remain Brisbane, unarmed African-American man. Michelle Cusseau, mentally ill African-American woman.
Yes.
A record number of police shootings last year. The last time we spoke, just 2 weeks ago, it was about Facebook posts by several dozen officers that were racially offensive and others.
Yes.
Now this. Do you understand why there's a perception out there that this department has a race problem?
Yes, so I get it, which is why I said that I get it. I understand that. But at the end of the day, when we talk about 2,900 people, that's not who we're talking about. I will say this, though. I do understand that this video, that the information, that the conversation we're having right now doesn't just mar Phoenix PD or the city of Phoenix. It mars all of law enforcement, and it's absolutely unacceptable.
Okay, we have to take a break. When we come back, more with Police Chief Jeri Williams on what comes next for the officers involved. And welcome back to our conversation with Phoenix Police Chief Jeri Williams. We're now shifting our attention to the officers involved in that ugly confrontation you saw at the top of the show. I wonder what you, as a cop, think about what one or both officers did, screaming, you know, get your effing hands up. Where does that come from in that kind of situation in an officer? So
great question, and that's what our internal investigation will look into. I will say this, as an officer and having been a cop for 30 years, you kind of sit back and say, what was going on? And that's what we need to address. So when we talk about what are the next steps, there's an active investigation. I've pulled people offline to actively investigate that. I think it's important to note too, though, is that we do have body-worn cameras, and we're rolling out those body-worn cameras faster. In this instance, during this time, they didn't have body-worn cameras.
They didn't have cameras.
They did not.
Why didn't they have cameras?
Because we began the process of rolling out cameras in April, and we hadn't gotten to that precinct yet. So what we're doing is we're shortening the time frame that we're beginning the rollout. We have over 600 cameras out there right now, including this precinct where this happened, and we're going to start rolling out in South Mountain tomorrow.
Does this suggest, given what was in the report and the behavior, that a body camera may have changed that behavior or not?
Time will tell. I will say this, I'm looking forward to our officers having that tool in place so that we're able to see and know what's going on in the moment.
How long, getting back to the officers, we're talking about two officers here, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how long have they been on the force, and what is their status right now?
So that information, let me answer it this way. So they are assigned to a desk, so they do not have forward-facing with the public. As far as the tenure, I'd rather have our public information officers talk about it. One didn't have a lot of time on, one had some tenure, so it's a little mix of both.
Less than 5 years, more than 10 years?
That I'm not aware of or sure of.
One of them said, you talked about mitigating circumstances, one of them said in the report that he believed the male, Javon Ames, may have been reaching for a gun, as same for Aisha Harper, the woman. Is that a mitigating circumstance? So
to me, I need to look at the totality of the circumstances. And at the end of the day, I'm saying here to you on Square Off that the initial contact that we made, the yelling, the screaming, the profanities, the dragging people out, those kind of things are not in keeping with what our police department says or does. And the other 3,000 officers out there deserve better.
What kind of discipline could these officers face?
Great question. The investigation is going to lead me to that. Everyone is entitled to due process. And through that due process, we will determine what will happen to these employees.
How long could it take? Because the world out there is not patient.
Absolutely.
They've seen the video.
Absolutely.
Many of them have decided and the verdict is guilty, and they want justice now.
So instead of waiting for this process to move the way it normally moves, I've assigned 2 people just to this case, and I've assigned 2 people just to the Facebook post because I want to get the information out. I want to get to the truth, and I'm aware that people don't want to wait.
How much could that shorten the typical process? Because it's typically this could take months.
It's going to shorten it by months, yes.
So we could have an answer within?
So I'm not going to commit to an answer. I want to commit to due process. I want to commit to getting it right. I want to commit to pushing it out.
You live in a different world than you grew up in as a cop.
Yes.
Information comes fast, people decide fast.
Yes.
There's a lot of distrust out there right now, and boy, that's pretty tough.
We're all feeling it, Bram.
How confident are you in your ability to reverse that?
Great question. As soon as I find out about behavior, I've addressed it and have done so for the almost 3 years that I've been here. I said earlier today in another interview, I can't fix what I don't know. I need to start knowing things faster. I need to get information faster. I am confident in the abilities of the men and women who are out there working today in uniform, that they're the consummate professionals, that this type of behavior mars them, it mars law enforcement. I'm confident in the fact that I'm the person to do this, to lead this change, to have the difficult conversations in the community, and to make us a better police department.
All right, man, you have another difficult conversation coming up this week. Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego has called a public meeting to hear the community's concerns. It is at 6 p.m. Tuesday at Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church. That's at 1401 East Jefferson Street in Phoenix. It is right along the light rail line, so pretty easy to get to. Chief Jeri Williams, you'll be there as well.
Absolutely.
We thank you so much for being here this morning with us.
Thank you.